Hello my friends and thank you for joining me. My name is Julia and this is my channel Artsy Not Fartsy. Today we are making Christmas tags using stamps from Colorado Craft Company, designed by Anita Jeram, who is more known for her illustrations in children's books, and I bet you recognize her special style. I'm using Dylusions tags and I'm placing the stamps on the tag to figure out the design. I want 2 sentiments along with a mouse and that cute Christmas tree. When I know how to place my stamps, I start by stamping the 2 sentiments in VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. They say naughty or nice and wishing you the merriest of Christmases, and I stamp on 2 tags. When the sentiments are stamped, I stamp them again 2 times on masking paper. When my masks are stamped, I fussy cut them out. Next, I place my masks over the sentiments on the 2 tags. Then I place the mouse and the tree where I want them and stamp them on my tags in VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. When I have stamped the tree and mouse, I stamp on masking paper twice. And I must say, don't do this. Just don't. Use masking fluid instead. When I have fussy cut my masks, and remember, don't do that. Masking fluid is your friend. It's time to make an inky background using Distress Oxide inks. I place my masks over the tree and mouse and start blending. I use my bone folder to make sure the masks won't move and start by blending squeezed lemonade on the mask around the tree to give the tree a light glow. When the tree is lit up by the yellow, I move on to the red. Festive berries, a beautiful Christmas red, and I blend it in the middle, sometimes going back to the yellow throughout my blending to avoid harsh lines. Next I blend in the slightly darker red candied apple both over and under festive berries, and I always go back and forth between the reds to get a smooth blend. Next up is a darker red called Fired Brick, and I do the same procedure as before. Last among many reds are the darkest red Aged Mahogany, and I continue going back and forth between colors, and finally I blend black soot from the top. I let the black ink come down a bit, and then I use it to go around the edges and corners, making them dark. When I'm done blending, I clean off my glass mat and give the tag a quick dry. I want the background to be like a Christmas red wallpaper, so before I remove the masks, I bring out a checked background stamp from Concord and 9th. I stamp the background stamp over my masks and ink. It doesn't have to be perfect at all, and I stamp it and move it higher up, and stamp it again in VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. I do the same on the other tag, and then it's time to remove the masks, and it's always like a treat to reveal what's behind the masks. So let's color the tree, the cat in it, and the mouse admiring it. I use distress inks and a few distress oxide inks. I start with the brown, gathered twigs, and I smush it on my mat and use a regular watercolor brush and water when I start coloring the tree stem. To add some shadow, I use the darker brown ground espresso. The Christmas tree is standing in a bucket, and in my eyes it is wrapped in burlap, so I use distress ink called frayed burlap to color it in and ground espresso to add shadows. I color in every other present in frayed burlap and the others in red, along with ribbons and bows. I also use the red festive berries to go around the images to get rid of that white sliver left from the masks. Next, I use grey distress oxide inks to color the mouse and the bucket, but first I bring out the pink Kit Flamingo to give the mouse some pink on his nose and in his little ears. Then I color the mouse and the bucket in weathered wood and the darker hickory smoke. I also use black soot to give the mouse and tree a shadow. I color the cat in the same colors as my own cat. I use rusty hinge and black soot and blend them out, leaving some white as well. As you know, I'm making 2 tags and I left in the coloring of the other cat, this time in grey, weathered wood and hickory smoke. Next, I color the tree in my favorite green combo, Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness. I color in the branches in Twisted Citron first and add Rustic Wilderness for a deeper green. To get rid of that stark white around the sentiments, I use squeezed lemonade that I used earlier to light up the tree. And here are both my tags, and I move on to the third, using that amazing mouse on the star. I bought my stamps at Sarisstampingstudio and linked them in the description box below. This time I'm also using these amazing snowflakes and sentiments from the Christmas tree set. I place the snowflakes on my tag and bring out Wow's metallic silver superfine embossing powder. I treat the tag with my anti-static bag to get rid of any tackiness, and I stamp in Versamark embossing ink, and then I cover them in Wow's silver powder and melt the snowflakes with my heat tool. Then I move on to the bottom of the tag and I place my snowflakes. I stamp them in Versamark sticky embossing ink and emboss them in silver. Next I'm using pigment powders for my background. The yellow Nouveau powder Solar Flare, Cosmic Shimmer powder in dark blue and silver, and black Brushos powder. I put a small amount of the yellow Nouveau powder in the middle and the dark blue, silver and black powders around it. I use my spray bottle with water to activate the powders and make them blend and drip. And while my third tag is drying, I move on to the adorable mouse. I place the mouse on his star in my stamping platform loaded with watercolor cardstock, and I stamp the mouse twice to be sure. I start the coloring like I did before, with pink Kitsch Flamingo ink in his ears and on his nose, but then I use the warm grey pumic stone to color the mouse and hickory smoke to add shadow. To make the star shine and match the background, I use solar flare pigment powder and water to color it. Then I use distress ink in the dark yellow mustard seed to add depth to the star. Before I'm happy with my snowflake background, I add more dark blue powder and more of the yellow along with water. Then, after the background has dried again, I bring out the sentiment Merry Little Christmas and heat emboss it in Wow's silver embossing powder. But the sentiment didn't show up as much as I wanted, and while I think of options, I bring out my archival black soot ink pad to darken the edges, and before I do that, I re-ink my ink pad with more black soot ink. And then I go around my tag, darkening that night sky. Since my sentiment didn't work like I wanted it to, I put 3 sentiments from that same stamp set on an acrylic block and use Twilight dark blue ink to stamp over the whole background with those merry sentiments. When my background is finally like I want it, I take my microfiber cloth and wipe ink and pigment powder off my silver snowflakes. Then I put foam squares behind the mouse on the star and place him in the middle of my tag. Finally, I put silver cardstock behind this tag and craft cardstock behind the other 2. And then my 3 Christmas tags are finished. Thank you so very much for popping by, and I hope you will come back soon again. Until the next time, happy crafting!